Hi there. This is Space Core Jackie 720, and today I'm just going to be walking you through the process of porting a model from Metal Gear Rising into Metal Gear Solid 2 using my SeaLouse plugin. In theory, this works with any model. Some of the processes might be a little bit different, some of them won't. To start, what we're going to do is import the KMS file for Raiden's default model, and that is in fact not rydef.kms, that's an LOD model. What we want is rydef shmt stage rplt0r. I don't know why it's like that. plt1r, on the other hand, actually I can import this just to show you. It has the diver mask. Textures aren't loading, but so that's the difference there. If we import plt0 with preset blender scene, then we'll get this. Awesome. I also want to go ahead and import a Metal Gear Rising file for comparison. It's the MGS4 costume isn't even in here. There it is. Don't reset blender scene. Bulk import all of this. Awesome. So here I have MGS4 Raiden. All of this posing looks good. I'm not going to do the hair for now, so let's just turn this off, PL10A1. And that leaves the rest of the model to deal with. We've got a whole bunch of meshes, which I will start by deleting these hidden ones and merging all the rest. We've got the visor, which I will merge into the head shortly. And we've got the head, which is the head. What we need is to get all three of these, that is under the KMS armature, in order to get started really. So if I take this and just drag it in here, and then shift drag it to set parent, that's it as the parent of this random, okay. Set parent of the armature. And do the same thing here. For this, oh yeah, the head is not connected. Okay, let's first try and get the head into it. I'm just going to go and change the armature modifier to the body, see if that does the trick. Okay, it got the part that's weighted to the head, not the part that's not weighted to the head. Yeah, reducing weights is a general problem when it comes to this whole process. There's just a lot going on. Actually, is any of this weighted to the neck? Like, at all? Okay, there is a little bit weighted to the neck. Like, the tiniest bit has any weighting on the neck. So if we invert the selection, and what we're going to do is just go ahead and go to head, assign full weight, delete everything that isn't head. Why can't I undo? Fine. Delete everything period that isn't neck. Make this head, assign weight. So if we go in weight paint mode, you see there's mostly on the head, tiny bit on. This is me deleting this in order to re-import it from scratch because something has gone horribly, horribly wrong. Okay, awesome. We're back. Select everything that isn't weighted to neck. Go to head. Assign full weight. Delete everything else. I just deleted the neck, didn't. Head. Assign. Up. delete this. Delete all this. And now if we go to weight paint mode, what do we see? Head is full. Neck is the tiniest bit here. Let's run a quick normalize all. And see that the head is now almost completely red on everything. Perfect. Perfect. We finally got the head down. The mask is even easier because it is the same. No, in fact, it's all head. Like this, I can just delete everything except head. Select all, assign all. Okay. So I'm using the edit tool here to assign weights. What you're really supposed to do is use weight paint tool to, you know, modify weights along the shape of the mesh in order to deform it correctly. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make everything 100% or 0%. That's how I roll. Oh man, I also have to do textures. Okay, well, if these are the same, then we can go ahead and merge them. How many do we have? How many textures do we have here? There's a lot of textures here. I will now undergo the time-honored technique of taking shortcuts. For instance, all of these things, I'm pretty sure use the same texture. In fact, no, can I select by that texture? Yeah, like what are these? That's not going to render correctly. Delete it. It's not needed. Object mode, remove. Okay, so I've already ruined MGS4 Raiden. I don't want to hear it. I am making a demonstration. If anyone wants to make this mod better, I am showing you exactly how to go about it. Then we have the body. A little less to say here. What we do have to deal with is the fact that if I actually check the armature, let's make it display in front. Yeah. This armature has... Oh, right. So before I did all of the reweighting nonsense, we wanted to put these things on the thing. Awesome. So we need to compare these models, scale them appropriately, pose them appropriately. And what you're going to notice when I compare this armature, which is also not displaying in front by default, it's right here, here's the option, is that there are more chest bones. See, Metal Gear Rising models. You've got one little bone, and then 1, 2, 3 big spine bones, and then one big neck bone, and then the head bone. MGS4 model, you got one tiny bone, 2 spine bones, neck bone, head bone. And what that means is that all of the weights on this model are not quite right. What do we want to go about fixing this? Is we want to take the smallest, most useless one of these bones, that's spine 2 right here, and we're going to wipe it off the face of the earth. So, mesh edit mode. I don't think there's an operator for this. No, there's not. Although there is a cheeky trick for it. So I have this operator here. It's called remove unnamed bones. It removes all vertex groups of the active object that are correlating to a bone without a real name. Now in Metal Gear Rising, all of these bones represent stuff that I have not bothered to document. You'll see it's affecting a lot of the geometry. That's mostly because these are twist bones, used to add extra detail. Metal Gear Solid 2 doesn't have twist bones. It doesn't have anything like twist bones. But all of these twist bones, if I compare them on the actual model, are these tiny useless bones. Like if I move it, then it moves that part, but it doesn't move the hand at the end of it. It's useful, but not useful to me. And what I did is I made an operator that specifically deletes those bones and moves all of their weights onto the parent bones that they originate from. So, if I want to wipe this off the face of the earth, all I have to do is go to spine 2 and rename it to bone 1, 2, 3, 4. And do the same in the geometry. Vertex groups. It renamed itself automatically. Perfect. Now if I have this selected, I go to Object, and I remove unnamed bones, then it explodes. 1 second, I need to check my code. Okay, I need to move it back into its own armature first. This is not exactly an intended or desired feature, but we're doing it anyway. So, body 0, set parent PL10A0, run the operator, and there we go. Now you see if I look in the vertex groups here, anything that has bone 1, 2, 3, 4 is gone. If I go into weight paint mode, then we have hip, spine 1. Spine 1 is bigger than it was before. I didn't showcase that really. And spine 3 down here blends into spine 1. Spine 2 has been eliminated, and we can effectively combine it with this armature as soon as it's posed. Now with the posing, we're going to get real close and comfortable here. We want this to be as close a match as is at all feasible. Now that is even more feasible because, I mean, look at it, it's the same guy in higher resolution and with a robot jaw. He's a robot. But basically, besides that, same guy. I will admit these weights are likely to get a little bit funky the way they are now. Let's pull back the neck bone a little, see that beautiful face. Go back to the hip, scale back up a tiny bit more. This is even more of a problem, you see, with the EVM models, the cutscene models, because then you need to actually have the weights work on the specific face armature, and that is basically never going to work. What I did for the Revengeance mod, and will likely do for the published version of this mod, is use the Blender weight transfer feature to copy weights directly from one mesh geometry onto the other mesh geometry. We got Z fighting. Normally that's bad. In this case, I like it. It's exactly what I want in order to tell that we're making progress. Oh yes, I should also go through the body materials in order to simplify them where possible. Actually, no, let me put this back. There's also something else I need to demonstrate. The exporter is very picky. If I can't attempt to export this right now, but if I did, then this loose line here would be pretty problematic. That's why SeaLouse doesn't include it. That's why Metal Gear Rising tools, else known as Nier Automata, formerly Nier Automata tools, those that still exist. You can get either one. You have this delete loose geometry all function, and what it does is it deletes loose geometry. So you do that, you make sure a model is triangulated using the Control T keybind, and that's going to make sure that there's no loose stuff. It's all making into even three-sided polygons. Very usable. I'll also go ahead and delete some geometry on the back of the head. Metal Gear Rising's head is a little bit taller. That makes some problems. Transparency mode. Even this out. Delete, let's say, this far back. This is going to be a huge pain. It's going to be clipping through all the hair. We can worry about that later, though. Yeah, everything is stable. Raiden is in Raiden. So now what we need to do is actually pick out the armature that all of this stuff is weighted to, or at least you can see it's moving the parts that have changed. And we need to apply the armature modifier. This is going to be accomplished by selecting the mesh that is still moving very irregularly. Going right over here into the modifiers tab and just Control A to apply. Now if I move this around, no longer does anything. It's useless. We can get rid of it. So now I can actually go ahead and, if I want, I can add a new armature modifier to RIDEF, etc. And it won't move anything. It'll move the original Raiden, of course. And the reason for that is because the bone names don't match. Now, in order to make the bone names match, I need to make two modifications. I need to delete the finger bones, and I need to delete the face bones. I think I actually already got the face bones. So like if I scroll through here, what are all of the things? Spine, neck, head, foot. Yeah, it's just fingers. So what I'm going to do is pretty much the same thing I did for the face. I'm going to run through the list of all of the finger bones, select their vertices, and we're going to replace all of those with hand weights. Okay, so yeah, there's his right hand. Just go ahead, find hand R, assign weight of 1, and now we can delete all of these. Same deal on the left hand. Okay, so that gets the bone count down to a very reasonable number. All we need to do is go ahead back into object mode. We still have the entire model selected. We're going to click object. We're going to go down to SeaLouse, and we're going to convert the MGR bone weights, and that just makes all of these bones very conveniently named for us. And now you can see if I pose, his head is unaffected. Body works fine. let's fix the head. Head bone is bone 12. Oh, that's right. Okay, so MGS2 models actually have two head bones. They've got the head bone that's used for KMS models, such as we have here, and there's the bone that's used for EVM models, which otherwise has more animation supplied on top. So what my code does is it automatically applies bone 21 for the head weights, which is the EVM one. But what we have here is actually bone 12. That's the head bone. So in order to fix this, we just need to go in, find bone 21. That's actually bone 12. It's a bit of a clunky fix, but I personally think that it is. I'm not sure that's better. There should be an option. There should be adjust weights for KMS and for EVM separately. I am an imperfect man. But now if we go ahead and pose, there we go. We got the whole thing moving. If we can't mirror pose because the bone names don't match, but yeah. The next situation to deal with is textures. So, if I am to hypothetically hide all of this and hide all of this, every part of this model has some number of textures, and each texture is just named after it because I'm not very creative and these don't come with names. And each of these textures has a G_color map, which defines the TGA reference that is extracted. It's all going on. They got specular maps, they got environment maps. That's really all there is to it. But there are a lot of these, and in order to export these, we need to actually create corresponding textures. So what I am going to do, delete all of the geometry. So as of now, this is the Raiden. There's a limited selection of textures that we're allowed to use. Specifically because this model, we want it to work with the codec model as well. The codec model is just Raiden's upper torso, so it's actually missing a lot of his textures. Specifically, the codec model has 6 unique textures that are intended for it, which are the main torso, a bit of his chest piece, his face, his eyes, his upper arms, and his eyelashes. It so happens that what we have here is actually... I just deleted a texture here to merge it, so that his face and eyes are now the same texture. We have 7. Or 8. How do we have 8? Okay, so we can merge those two. That gets us down to 7. But of course, the tricky thing that I'm going to be taking advantage of here is that gird 0 is actually only on his legs. So for that, we can use some of the textures that are only available in the full model, because those are going to get clipped out whenever we port this down to codec. So there are 2 ways of getting this to export. Method 1 is by having the base color be assigned to a node called G_color map and have it match and everything. And that is a huge pain. So the method that I recommend, that I'm going to be using, is to instead assign custom properties to each material. And those properties have to be named color map fallback, specular map fallback, and environment map fallback. And one more issue is that one of the 6 textures we have available is actually Raiden's eyelashes. And those are not available on the KMS model. It's too low quality to have eyelashes. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and use another body part, like this hand. So let's see, main body, may as well make that the main body. So what I'm going to do, scroll all the way down to custom properties. We're going to add 3 new custom properties. They will all be integers. The first one will be color map fallback. And we're all going to I do not understand why Blender is this way with custom properties. It is the most incredible pain they could apply to this system. I'm just going to copy this. So color map fallback for the body, that's going to be 13747,950. And you can also get the names of all of these textures, which is going to be important because, you know, right now we're just typing nonsense numbers, but we're going to need to actually edit the textures later. All of the names and corresponding numbers can be found in a lookup table in the source code. That's ctexturemapping.txt in the SeaLouse code. It's graciously been contributed by Shizkalev. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It uses hexadecimal. I may change that in the future so that it actually matches the numbers we're seeing here. And yeah. One more, environment. And this is just going to be the standard cube map 7374. So that's one. That's one material taken care of. Now let's handle the rest. Gird 0, that's this part down. And then, of course, when we convert this into an EVM model, we can change it to use the eyelash texture instead, and thus we'll just be replacing two textures with the same texture. If we use Blender's handy scripting tab, then we can actually do this another way. So for mat in d.objects 0 body 0 dot material slots. So if we do it this way, then what we can actually do is just use the scripting tab to assign custom properties in basically a shorter way. So d.materials gird1, that's going to be the translucent parts on his shoulders. Let's replace that with the eye texture. Why not? So just going to materials, type a custom property, just assign it like a JSON key. Color map fallback equals 115.68.510. And now if you can actually go ahead and check here, we can see the custom property has been added. It does not have a maximum range. It's automatically all handled. It's very nice. And then we're going to run the most dangerous operation yet. That's going to be right here in SeaLouse tools. Split by bone. And that's going to automatically go ahead. Takes a minute. Something is wrong with those coordinates. It's somehow expecting the body to be 1,000 times smaller. If I move the properties of the rotation wrapper into the armature, does that help? No. Okay, let's scale both of these up. Now if I move this, it still thinks it's tiny. Whereas if I move other Raiden then it recognizes, the distance. So what is going on? How can it still think it's tiny? It's not. Well, let's make sure that it's not. Let's put this model right back in its place. There, now you are upscaled by a factor of 1000. You are parented to no one. We reset the parent, and now we finally have the correct scale. Okay, that's the magic. You take it out, apply the scale, apply the rotation, put it back in. It's some sort of hidden property. I don't know. I don't know why it is. Reapply the transforms here. Zoom back in. So I did realize a step I skipped. In fact, at least 2 steps I skipped. So in order to fix this, we need to first go back and re-merge all of these meshes. I will name this mesh. And what we need to run is we need to go into weight paint and limit total weights to 2. That'll basically force every pixel, every individual vertex, to be weighted to at most 2 bones. So there won't be. So that is going to reduce the overall quality of the model posing, but it will work for the most part because it selects the 2 bones that have the highest weight. And then if we select the mesh, I'm in pose mode. If we select the mesh, go to split by bone, and then reselect all of the mesh, delete the mesh, verify that these coordinates are good. Yep. Now if I select all of these and go to my MGR tools to remove unused vertex groups, that will only affect the first one. Okay. Maybe I should make a bulk version of this. But you see, this is bone 0, this is bone 0, bone 1. And in order to accurately match with the way KMS works, I should probably figure out a way to remove this limitation in the future. The top bone must be the one with a higher number. That is the second bone in the vertex groups list. That has to be the parent. So like if I go to weight paint, you can see that everything down here is red. That's the parent bone. Everything up here is now red because bone 1 is the child bone. And I do need to clear the loose geometry again. So let's do that. Yep, all good. And I'm just going to repeat this on each part. Here we have I should probably figure out a way to automate this more cleanly in the future. Here we actually have a slight issue where there's a bit of 3 bones, because although each individual vertex is limited to 2, not everything is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove bone 0, which has heavy overlap with bone 1, and then I'm going to go to weights and normalize all, and not lock active, which will cause bone 1 to then get more weight to make up for the difference, and everything's going to be good. Actually, I should normalize all on all of these, so let's just go back and get that too. Okay, KMS Mesh 2, that's in order. KMS Mesh 3, I need to go back to object mode. Same issue. Well, with some of this, bone 1 seems to actually be overlapping almost entirely with bone 3, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to delete, and this can cause some tearing later on, and I don't really know how to fix this unless you split the mesh up manually and adjust all of the edge cases. Sorry. So I'm going to delete bone 1, select bone 3, normalize all, and actually lock bone 3. So that'll ensure that bone 3 doesn't get any more, and everything new gets pushed onto bone 2 instead, which should hopefully be a little bit... There we go, now we got that red edge all the way around. And of course swap the order. Okay, so this one could be a little bit tricky because we have 4 bones here and the only one we're sure of is 11. If I actually go into pose mode and select the bone, we can check its relations and verify that bone 11 is parented to bone 2. That's the chest piece here. It's not the shoulders have to go. Go back to the data, remove 7, remove 3, pick 11, swap order. And normalize. The extra good part is that all of these bits that have more fine weighting that we're pretty much tearing out, they're less likely to need it, just on account of these are parts of the body that don't actually deform that much in the big scheme of things with most animations. And that should be everything we need for the weights to be handled. So I'm going to save another copy right here. And then I'm going to export the KMS and see what we can get. Right, def shmt stage rplt0r generate C model. Okay, so I'm getting an error message here. It says vert groups 0.group equals 0 is having an index range error, and what that means is that there is some vertex that doesn't have any bone weights at all. And if I can open the system console, I can check. Okay, so the issue is during KMS mesh 12, that's the head. So I guess some parts of the neck here were actually exclusively weighted to other parts, and therefore if I check bone 11, yeah, right there in the corner, you see it? That part is blue on both bone weights. Same on the other side. Now in order to ensure this is completely fixed, what I'm actually going to do is go into edit mode and select all geometry. No, select all geometry by pressing A and assign a full weight to bone 11. And that's actually going to make everything overweighted because you have 100% on one bone, 100% on another bone. But if I now normalize all on bone 12, bone 11 picks up the slack and loses all of that overweighting because I locked active. Hopefully that's the only issue. And let's try exporting again. Mesh 0, submesh 1. Yeah, I gotta fix the materials again. Now, a submesh is generated for each material. However, most body parts don't use all the materials, and if a material corresponds to no vertices, that's going to cause problems. I don't have a helper function to get rid of excess materials, so for that, you kind of play it by ear. And I'll just go through all of the meshes. was a huge pain, so I'm going to save another copy. And now try exporting. Okay, no error message that time. I can control Blender. Blender is loaded, and let's boot up MGS2. And if we get up close and personal, there we go. You can see all of the different textures at play. Some of them are Metal Gear Rising textures because I replaced those already. But the geometry is definitely there. The situation is that for the LOD model, there is a limit that is tighter than the limit on the main model. However, very conveniently for me, the limit is a little bit finicky. I can't be completely sure of it, but my current Raiden model, the Metal Gear Rising one, which is obviously more high detail, that has about 25,000 vertices, little under, and this entire model only has 10,000 already. Like if I go into edit mode, you see that 531 that changes. That's the individual one, 10,000 total. So I don't believe I'll need to do any decimation to make this work. And I'll just get on that then. So in order to export, we first export over a different KMS. It would appear that Raiden's model, in fact, doesn't actually have a different KMS type. So what I wanted to check would be under the armature. The armature has some additional properties. Bounding box size, which is these coordinates, KMS type, and stir code. I don't know exactly what these two do. Those are the names that appeared to be there. So one of them relates to the try file, I believe, that contains the full textures that are being loaded. What's important though is that for our purposes, this doesn't need to be different, so I'm just going to export another copy of this KMS, no more changes, over rydef.kms and generate C model, and that's going to be done, and then I can boot up MGS2 again. Okay, the game just crashed. So what that means is that actually, if I create a new Blender project and actually import the model that I've just been exporting, this is what it looks like. And if I actually check the statistics, this has 35,000 vertices, so we are going to need to trim it down somewhat, even if the KMS type and stir code don't need to be changed. So for this, I think it's nice to pick out some of the body parts that are, you know, the hardest to see, especially at long distance, high detail. And what I'm going to do is first I'm going to actually merge vertices by distance, which will just automatically remove a whole bunch of vertices that are, and make it possible to like get actual linked parts of the model. And then I'm going to delete these bits here, which are each, 61 vertices? That's not going to be very helpful. That'll be a little helpful. Oh, the face. Definitely, yeah. It's like, this is the low detail model. This is not going to be seen very well. Like, if I select this, that's... if I were able to delete the entire face, that would get it down to... that would drop 1,000 vertices immediately, and... because even though I merged a bunch of stuff, so the overall vertex count... the overall vertex count already dropped enough, but unfortunately that isn't quite how it works, just because of the way these are constructed. So yeah, let's go ahead and delete these bits up here and see how far that gets us. Now in order to get an accurate vertex count, I'm going to re-export this over the low detail model, which is just rydef. And then re-import that to get accurate. And that, we see the vertex count dropped from, 36,000 down to 33,000. even though everything on the face did get automatically re-expanded. So what else can we remove? Actually, I'm just going to run a general decimate modifier on this. So first I want to merge. And then I go to modifiers, add modifier, decimate. Go to object mode, see how it looks. Let's turn off texture preview. And anyway, go back here. Drop the fidelity. Remember, this is only seen at long distance. Actually, before I do that, looks like there are some arms here that are holding this on. No one's going to see those. Holding on the eye visors. And let's just run this through another export cycle to check how it's doing. $32,000. So goal is 25,000 before we try anything else, before we get desperate. And see, if I just delete the vertices left and right with the decimate modifier, then they're not linked. So I do need to merge them in order for the modifier to work correctly, which is 10,000 vertices that unfortunately will come back. 30%. I think 20% looks passable, at long distance. So let's apply that, and that brings the vertex count down to 20,000, which is still not the real number. Export KMS, import KMS. But the real number is now much more manageable at 22,000. So that means that in theory this will actually work. It did not work. The game is still crashing. That's unfortunate, and I don't really know what to do about it. Well, I mean, I guess I do know what to do about it. What I do is we keep deleting vertices. Okay, so my LOD mod, if I merge by distance, actually has a grand total of 5,000 vertices with everything merged by distance, which means that this mod, if everything is merged by distance, what does that get us? Under 5,000, yeah. I definitely do not know the rules of this. I just know that sometimes the game crashes, sometimes it doesn't. And what are we supposed to do about it? Well, let's start decimating more stuff. We're now down to 19,000 vertices. We have gone below 20,000, and I'm going to try to reopen the game again. And the game loads. Okay, so I guess 20,000 is the limit. You see that whenever it gets into a close-up shot, it just seamlessly transitions between the high-quality and low-quality model. And with that, I'm ready to move on to textures. Alright, next up, we're going to be working on getting the textures all loaded and copied over for our KMS file. And to do this, I'm going to be trying to use the anti-Big Boss model manager. So you should be seeing that on screen now. It's a little small, so I've blown it up in OBS. And what we want is, if I open the textures folder, these are all of the dumped textures from Metal Gear Rising. And in order to use the texture editor here, I want to first load up MGS2 Raiden. Unfortunately, it can't exactly do custom models without some very specific config. But we've got the face, body, more body textures. We got a lot of textures here. Does it have the eyelashes? Because I'd like to get that out of the way. I don't think that it does. I think this is interesting. So this may be an issue when we get around to making the codec model, which will of course not have any legs or hands. But in the meantime, I'm just going to start copying files. Now, In order to work with the texture preview, this only actually accepts PNG files. I'm going to actually copy everything into GIMP in order to copy individual textures. So we've got the main body texture 2455. Load this up. We do not want the transparency. Let's colors, components, decompose, RGB, which will remove the alpha effectively. Slightly different colors. And then just go to colors, components, and recompose. And boom, this texture now has no transparency. We're going to save it as PNG. The alpha channel in this case, since this isn't actually a transparent texture, I believe is used for the specular map, which we'll have to get to later in order to actually generate our own specular maps. So let's just put this in desktop/textures. Let's make it .png. Default parameters. So now we've got the PNG right here. I'm just going to go ahead, change texture. Desktop/textures, here's the PNG. Boom. That has replaced his face. That isn't actually what I wanted it to replace. I wanted to replace it with... I wanted to use this to replace RaiBody01 Fix, which is this texture. And obviously that just looks wrong because we're looking at the default Raiden model. Not much to do about that. Let's get through replacing all of the other textures in the same way. This is the magical texture we want, and this one is translucent, and I think we actually do want the literal translucency this time, so I'm just going to export it as is. Because, it's a see-through mask. It's kind of supposed to be that way. And we have partial success. Okay, what it looks like is that the leg guards are using default Raiden textures. The mask sorta worked. The face did not work. And the upper torso did not work. So we've got a few things, going on here. Actually, it looks like the upper torso really didn't work. Some of those materials are just assigned incorrectly. The main body worked. So we got like one texture that worked. It looks like the visor worked, I think, and the chin. So, the main body and also the least important textures. And now begins the tedious debugging process. Why is this? Why are these particular textures not working? Why is his face still... Actually, okay, we can solve the face here and now. If I go into my textures folder, flat list, overstim, win. In theory, I know which one of these. Not the hair. Okay, which one of these were modified today? So these are all of the new textures. And this should be .bump. It's specifically... Oh, it's high face SS2. Why is it underscore SS2? That doesn't make any sense. Copy this. Okay, that's better. So now Raiden has... Yeah, everything except the leg guards, I think, is just... looks to be working now. Raiden has a face. It's hard to get a good look at it, but he most definitely has a face. Behind that concerningly non-transparent mask. I guess it can only be transparent in high-quality models, where it's actually replacing another transparent texture. That's a bit of a shame. I'll probably fix it off camera. I'm sure it's some minor mistake somewhere. But yeah, that's textures. We'll be right back to you. So what we want to do next is actually get started on making the EVM model. And in order to do that, I'm going to take everything I have here and discard it and just import the generated KMS file. Now this file, it's got, you see it's got the back suffix. I did a little bit of tweaking, word of advice. If something ever goes wrong, try importing the KMS and re-exporting it. That'll regenerate the C model and it'll hopefully fix any discrepancies that occurred just as a result of bad C model generation in the first place. See, the textures here are all messed up because they're still using the default Raiden textures. That's not an issue for us. And in order to make this into an EVM model, what we need to do is, first, before I forget, I'm going to select the visor, which will be this part. It's got the base color of 6813235, which is Raiden's finger texture. That's not an option, so we need to change this to actually pulling from the color map fallback again. I'm going to go to link and remove this. That'll just disable it. And we're going to custom properties, new, prop, rename, color map fallback, type int max, big number, big non-broken number. And the eyelash is 126325558. Yeah, that should do the trick. Environment map and specular map. Yeah, the eyes don't have those maps, so I'm actually just going to go ahead and unlink these completely. Save us the hassle. And these are all technically different textures. We got 1472, 9255, and 1374. Even though those are all looking pretty similar, they're not pulling the same texture. So we're going to change this to EVM. And what we're actually going to go do is we're going to go in here and we're going to join all these meshes into one mesh. It shall be EVM mesh. Now you'll notice that all of the materials have been bunched up here. We don't want to recombine the materials. This is because there's a limit on bone weights. Still, it's a little bit less restrictive than with KMS. But with the EVM, you can have a maximum of, I believe, 4 bones per vertex and up to 8 bones per material. So that's still kind of tight. The reason I converted it to KMS first is because this way we get everything for free, works mostly out of the box. There's still a little bit of tearing. Oh, right, tearing. I'm gonna press A to join everything, and we want to go to, we want to select vertices. Press 1. We want to merge vertices by distance. Repeat that a couple times just to ensure we got them all. And then we're going to go back into object mode. We're going to use an MGR tool again to rip mesh by UV islands. And this is a little bit finicky. And in fact, I'm going to take a minute to make sure that we also delete loose geometry after that. Just in case. but that should do the trick, and that's going to ensure that anything with a different texture is not joined, so it won't have any texture tearing issues. There's one more thing I need to check. Now, the model that I'm going to be testing first is specifically the D005P01 model, because that is, it so happens that this is the model used for the first cutscene where Raiden takes off his diver mask, so it's a little bit easier to work with. And I just need to ensure that I get the correct properties copied. Okay, so this is not actually a KMS type, it is called flag on an EVM. Important distinction, and there is a different stir code as well. And for good measure, let's just copy the name. I don't think that's actually important to anything, but hey, just in case. And with that, I am ready to try exporting an EVM file. So this has the same properties, generate C model. You want to go to KMS, you want to pick the D005P01, and we're going to see what happens. It's going to freeze up for a minute because generating the C model for the EVM is much more intensive than with the KMS. But it looks like it didn't crash. I can check the console, no errors. And with that, let's boot up MGS2. And we have a game crash. That's just fantastic. Now, in order to test this, I'm going to save my Blender state and attempt to import the generated EVM to see if anything looks amiss. Okay, that is very amiss. The model is not scaled correctly. And besides that, I'm not sure there's anything technically wrong about it. Okay, let's go back to our previous save and just play it safe. We're going to play this the safe way now. Edited, colon this, edited to. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the actual version of this, the original version. Blender crashed. Okay, looks like we're back to other Blender. Are we still catching this? Yeah. So we're going back to our last save. Don't save. Open version 6. This armature, too, shall be called edited a armature. We will leave nothing to chance. And we want to go to the EVM file. Don't reset Blender scene. D005P01 true, that's my backup file. Go to the true version. Select all the geometry, delete all the geometry, but also go and delete all these materials in object mode. Less than 220 materials, manageable at least. We select this, make this one the primary, Control J, join. Now this has all of our materials. Material names don't matter. That's why I named them so completely haphazardly. And then delete this, delete this, delete this, and rename this and this for good measure. And then we should be able to export. D005P01 for this particular scene. And looks like it worked. So we go back into MGS2, and the moment he removes the mask, it switches models. And we get to see our handsome boy.
Sons of Liberty.
Sons of Liberty?
He's not looking too hot, I must admit.
Is Solid Snake.
The hero of Shadow Moses? So that's why you changed my code name.
Okay, so the mask is... I forgot to replace that texture, but
he died
besides
2 years
that,
ago on that tanker after he blew it sky high.
I don't think it looks half bad.
Could he have survived?
And of course he doesn't have face weights yet.
Not a
We're about to get
chance.
to that. So the texture that we need to replace is just the exact same as the texture that is currently replacing Raiden's fingers, which is just Rai finger fix. We're just going to copy paste that, and this should be Rai hi mtg alp oval.bimp .bmp bitmap, whatever. That is, did I already replace that? I just misspelled it. Mobile Task Force Raiden, male to female Raiden, I don't know. Take that as you will. I'm pretty sure I just completely messed that up earlier. But since we know that the generation technique works, that just leaves, well, 2 more steps really. 3 more steps. We need to add the face weights. We need to double check that texture swap worked. We need to just make sure everything's cleaned up and tested. Alright. So next up, what we need to do is get the face weights all worked out, because right now, if I go into our weight paint mode and pick, which one's the head bone? Bone 12 here, this is the head. It is currently all one very solid weight, so there's no eye motion, no mouth motion, and that's going to be a problem. What we want to do first is change bone 12, right here, which is the head. We're going to change it to bone 21, and we actually already have a bone 21 somehow. I don't think that anything is actually assigned to it, so I can just remove that and then make the other one the primary bone 21. Bone 21s or bone 12 are mostly the same, but bone 21 is technically the correct one for EVM. If it was still a KMS, then we would want to be using bone 12. And if I import the original models from both characters, I'll show you what I mean by this exactly. What we can see is that the weight paints, for one, are named differently. We got all of these parts on Raiden's face geometry, all very nice. Most of it is assigned to the head, of course. But then over here, we have a complete... We also have a bunch of weights assigned. But the difference is that these are not the same bones. If I hide the geometry and just look at the bones, I think we can see that there are... Basically, there are more bones in the Metal Gear Rising model. I mean, is that exact? The bones are definitely spaced differently. The creases around the eyes are different. And for that reason, I am not going to attempt to transfer weights from the MGS4 model. Instead, what I'm actually going to do is show this mesh again. And we're going to copy weights from this face onto this face. The real catch is going to be the eyes, so I'm going to take care of the eyes first. See, the eyes are very simple, because if I go here to weight paint and I find, what are the eye bones? Eyes are bones 26 and 27. I will probably name these at some point. It will not, editing this will not always be like this. Yeah, bone 26 is left eye, bone 27 is right eye. So, if 26 is left eye and 27 is right eye, then we're just going to come over here, select this. I'm going to press L on the left eye to select all of that geometry. Yep. And we're just going to go to bone 26. And we're going to assign a weight of 1. And we're actually going to go to bone 21, which again is the head. And assign, and we're just going to click remove, and that's going to get rid of it. So now if we check the weight paint, we can see that the head is still everything except the eye. And bone 26 here is the eye. And then same thing with bone 27. Bone 21 remove. And for the rest of the face, there's a neat trick I like. I'm going to select all linked geometry here. So that's going to get us our head. Let's move this using control so that it moves exactly 1 meter and we can move it back again later. And then we're going to come here and I'm going to make sure that this is moved by the exact same distance. So most of the face is in alignment. You know, it's not perfect. Ears look different. More stuff going around the back of the head. The textures are still screwed up. Don't pay attention to the textures. It will not help you. And I'm going to hide this, and I'm going to basically remove all of the geometry that is not using the bones you want to be working with here. But just, in case you're doing anything clever, like metal jaw Raiden, which bones here are the lower lip? Because those are the ones that we want to not really mess with. Looks like bone 22, 23, 24, 25. I don't know why they're out of order either. Seriously, this format baffles me. So this selection method is going to pick up everything that has even a hint of that bone weight, and I think that's actually still what we want to do. We're not trying to make this an even cut, we're trying to make sure that we don't carry over any weights below the upper lip. It is bone 42, yeah? Yeah. Here it is. There we go. So we're just going to delete only faces, and then clean geometry again. And that gets us our upper jaw geometry, upper mouth. Some of the cheeks are missing, the eyeballs are missing. It's utterly horrific, but if we now select this, we can work our magic. What I need to do is make sure that I actually separate this. So we're going to just take the select geometry, we want to separate selection, that'll create EVM mesh 002 here, and then we can run everything as we were. What I'm going to do is I'm going to weight paint mode. So we want to have the new mesh, the one we're modifying, selected as the primary, and the one that we're copying from selected as a secondary. When we run transfer weights, we need to set ray radius to, some distance, some positive distance. It'll get to the average, it'll get closest, so that's alright. Nearest vertex looks good. We do want all layers ordered by name, and we do want all layers ordered by name. And mix mode replace, yeah, that should be good. Check bone 21, it's got stuff going on. And then we can just, grab, move it back, object mode, and join. And now, now we got the head weight, it's got all of this stuff still. We need to edit the jaw. So let's re-import the default Raiden model. So what I'm going to do this time is start by deleting every material that isn't his face. So let's just remove the rest. Okay, so I want to delete the upper lip bones, which looks like it's 34 through 37. And this is just, same principle as with the upper lip. I don't want to be pulling in anything from the wrong part of the mesh. I don't want his lips to clip together. And then go back over here. We want to just select the jaw this time. Yeah, that is mostly lined up. And just another weight transfer. And merge vertices here, why not? Okay, so if I do that, then we should see the lower lips are bones 22, 23, 24, 25. It's a little funky, but it looks like it did the trick. And the jaw is bone 42. It's got to be here somewhere. There it is. Yeah. So I guess the bottom part is actually mostly specialized chin weights of some kind. Or let's just scroll through. That's bone 42. So it's also weighted to bone 21, which is the head. I'm not exactly sure why Raiden's jaw is like that. I feel like it would just make his animations weirder, but apparently it is. So now we are really done with this. I'm going to delete it, move it back, rejoin, and just for miscellaneous sake, let's grab these loose bits and I'll assign them to the jaw weight. That's bone 42. And I'm just going to assign and go back to the head, which is bone 21, and remove. So now if we check the weight paint, we got head weights mostly on the upper head, but also on the chin. We got jaw weights. We got, and also note that the head weights, those do include the helmet and stuff. We got the individual eyes. We got all of the lips going. And we still have, the rest of the body all down here, which is artificially limited because I exported as KMS first. Okay, apparently I haven't been merging vertices here because this is technically like a 1/10,000th scale model, so... And with that, I think that I should delete this. So we're not actually ready to export again, and I'm going to show you why. So if I try to export EVM file... Do I have a backup of this? So first I'm going to make a backup of this file. We get an error. Material 19 has too many weights. So that's what it says. Exception, material 19, kmsMesh 12.002 has too many weights. And this error tells you exactly what goes wrong. Because if I select KMS, this is most of his face. And of course, his face has a lot of bone weights going on. We can fix this. What we want to do... Well, basically, we just need to split up the face geometry. In order to narrow this down, what I'm going to do is first go into edit mode and run separate by material. So that creates a different body piece for each individual material, and we can actually get just this part of the face. Now we can also limit the vertex groups on this using the remove unused vertex groups function from Metal Gear Rising or near tools, and that gets us to show that we have this many bones. That's a lot of bones. How many are we allowed? We're allowed 8. So we need this to be this tall. Right now it's significantly more than that, but it's some of the parts are obvious where to split. So if I grab the eyes here, and then we can easily separate those out because we know that's separate. So we go back, pick the eyes, unique copy by clicking the 3. That gets us 005, and that leaves the rest of the face. Object, we want to remove unused vertex groups, and that gets us to this many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we need to get it down to 8. So start by separating half the face. Make a copy. Let's separate the top half from the bottom half, and especially try to split the eyes in two, because the eyes are, those are really heavy on weight count. Okay, almost there. So now this one is just like 2 more weights than it can handle. Like, I bet if I just pick off this corner of the eye, and then reduce again just to check. Ah, that's not enough. Okay. So what is enough? It's probably... Let's get a bigger chunk there. Separate selection. Pick this part. Okay, so that got this part down to 8. Make that a copy. We got this little corner here. And if we remove its unused vertex groups, then it's actually 9. We got a lot going on here. But I bet if I split this off, then this gets a copy and this part gets a copy. That's actually its own copy already. Now I want to emphasize here that clicking the remove unused vertex groups option isn't actually an important step of the export. It's just how we tell whether we need to split anymore. Okay, so there we go. We got these parts down. How much is left here? Okay, a lot is left here. Okay, I think that's everything. And all of these materials have been separated out to their own. So let's Control A. We want to pick the EVM mesh 0 first, and Control J again. And that brings all of our happy materials back together. Let's save a quick copy. And try to export. Okay, so we did not limit total per vertex, and that is going to bite us in the butt. Whatever, easy fix. Weight paint, weights, limit total, default value is 4, that's fine. That applies it, that is all good. We can also just, for the sake of it, run normalize all, do not lock active. And that'll just, ensure everything is up to spec in the weights department. Okay, material 0, KMS 12.004 still has too many weights. Oh, the jaw. Yeah, that is a different material, isn't it? Okay, separate by material, and let's get this fixed. Now, I don't imagine that this one has as many weights as the rest of the face did. Like, it has... Like, I bet if I just pick across the halfway mark, separate selection. Okay, not quite that easy. Let's save, and then try to export an EVM file. And hopefully this time, since those are the only two mesh parts that I really transferred any weights to, hopefully this will actually export. All done, no error. Let's boot it up.
The terrorists call themselves Sons of Liberty.
Sons of Liberty?
The name of their leader is Solid Snake.
The hero of Shadow Moses?
Now, of course, there's still a couple of more edge cases we need to handle. We need to convert this to a codec model. We need to convert this to a first-person model. We need to modify the hair. Right now, that's just a white retexture that I made for the MGR Raiden. I understand people want better. I mean, it might still basically be just a retexture. Like, Metal Gear Rising does not have extremely good hair quality, all things considered. But there is one more glitch that is in particular. Now there is a Python script that I have here that is designed to just make everything simpler. And what it does, am I actually using the true file? Okay, yeah, so first off, this assumes that you copy all of Raiden's model files, which are just RaiDef anything, basically. And the C model files, actually, okay, no, the C model you don't have to make a copy of. That's just good practice. So I have copies of most of these files. If I scroll down, yeah, we got anything underscore true. And what this script does, and it's Python, it's very easy to edit if you want to make your own system, is it copies all of the EVM files around, because most of Raiden's EVM files are basically the exact same model, but with slightly different parameters, or one slightly different parameter. And this just copies the file and then copies back that parameter so that it's still valid. And it does the same copy on the C model. So I have it named 000AAA so it shows up at the top. And if I just, if I go in command prompt, I don't think I even need to. I think I could double click it. Python 0. There we go. So that just copied the source file, which was the one that we've been working on the entire time, into all of these files, both the EVM and the C model. Very handy. I do not want to run the export process, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't want to run it 9 times just to export the same model. I do need to do the codec model separately than the first person model, because those are different. Those are not part of this script. But I did just run it, so if we boot up MGS2 again and go to a different cutscene that doesn't use that particular model, we can see what happens. Alright, see, what we have here is a special problem where Raiden's model goes all over the place except for the face.
So you're finally here.
You've been
I
expecting me?
think this is an error in
Your
the weight
equipment,
normalization.
That skull suit isn't exactly...
But we can fix it. See, the error doesn't actually exist in the EVM file. It's only in the C model file, which means that if I simply import the generated EVM file and reset Blender scene this time, see, now it's showing the eyelash texture. That's so you can tell it's the real deal. And then if I simply export it again and regenerate the C model, that will probably fix it. And if it doesn't fix it, then I will do it a third time. I will continue this process until the problem goes away. And if it takes more than like 4 tries of importing the model, regenerating the model, and regenerating the C model, and it still doesn't help, then please contact me, because then we have an actual new bug to deal with. Now, since that model only affects the first cutscene, which, as we saw, looked fine to begin with, we're going to run the Python script again before booting back up. There we go. The model is fixed. The shin guards appear to not be textured correctly. And that hair is
So you're
wrong.
finally here.
So, I think that's all the process I can bear to record. Thanks for sticking with me so far. This mod, I should have the rest of the mod out, including the codec. I mean, the codec model is really simple, because it's basically just delete everything below here, and then delete whatever materials go with everything in that area. You can't have any empty materials. That'll throw an error. But you can just delete all the materials that are for the body parts that you removed. In fact, if I import a model to compare, just RaiRadio is the name of the model. RaiRadio MHMT. Yeah, it's nothing special. It's just deleting the top part. Thanks for watching.